Hola, I'm Sandra Velasquez, and I turned down two offers on Shark Tank because they were not in the same galaxy as what Nopalera was worth. Here is a story of what really happened in the room. I am the daughter of a Chicano farm worker and Mexican immigrant mother. They taught me to be proud of our Mexican heritage, about equality and hard work. Before launching Nopalera, I was a musician and used music as my platform to share our stories of resilience. But then the pandemic hit, and all gigs were canceled. I had a vision for a premium Latina brand that would show the world that Latina equals luxury. The first thing is that Shark Tank truly is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You don't get to do it twice. And it was actually a fellow founder friend of mine who suggested, hey, you should apply to Shark Tank. And I was like, what? No, I'm too busy. I'm scaling the business. I'm making product in my kitchen. I don't have time for this. And she said, just apply. And so I did. I went to the website and I applied online. And it was maybe a couple weeks after that I received a call back saying, we'd love to learn more about your company. And that kicked off a multi-month process of vetting and really trying to kind of audition to see if this was something that they would be interested in. Even when you get to the point where they're like, okay, we're going to assign you a team, we're moving forward here, there's no guarantee still that you will actually air. Nothing is guaranteed until you actually see yourself on television. So it is a lot of time and energy and fingers crossed energy to get to that point. You know, it was very early in building this brand, but I knew that the vision that I had for it was very big. And you hope, right, that the sharks are going to feel the same way. The filming of Shark Tank actually happened during COVID. So I have this distinct memory of flying to Los Angeles, being in a hotel room by myself on my birthday, actually, and quarantining. And we had to test for COVID when we got there, and then the morning of, and then we get shuttled all together in a minivan to the sound studio. And when you get there, we're all put in our own dressing rooms. You're not allowed to bring your cell phone, and there's no schedule. There's no, hey, you're going to be on at 1 or you're going to film at 2. You don't know. You just are with a group, and it's going to happen sometime that day. So I use that time in my green room alone to really ground myself in why I was there, why I had built this company, what this opportunity could do for my brand. I had scaled my business to that point with no outside capital. I had used my American Express card. I was making product myself in my kitchen. So this was truly an opportunity that could really have transformed the future of the business if it was in our favor. So it was finally my time to go out into the tank, and I knew that my guest judge was going to be Danny Lubetsky, who is Mexican. So at least I knew I had one judge that was going to know what a nopal was. And so that was comforting. I went in offering 5% of my company. So this is equity, right? These sharks, people that give you money, are going to take some ownership in your company. That's what it is. They're giving you money, and in exchange, you are giving them a piece of ownership of your company that you have built. I got two offers. The first one was Mr. Wonderful, or Kevin O'Leary, and it was 30% was his ask. So that was a very wide chasm between what I was willing to give up and what he was asking for. I think the thing is that most audiences, they just hear a number, like they hear $100,000 or they hear $300,000, and it sounds like a lot of money. And it is. All money is valuable and can be put to use to help you grow your business. But I think most people don't understand what that means from a valuation perspective moving forward. Because if you give up 30% of your company for $300,000, you are essentially capping the valuation. You're putting a start line on your business valuation right then and there. And if you do that, it's going to impact future valuations and future fundraising rounds. So in that moment when I got that offer, I was just flooded with memories and the strength of everything that got me to that point. I knew that I had not gotten this far only to come this far. And I thought about my grandparents crossing the border. I thought about my father picking fruit in the fields of Central Valley, California. I thought about my mother who came to the United States from Mexico as an adult. And again, the whole purpose of this brand was to value ourselves and the goods that we produce. And so it was just counter to the entire purpose of this brand to go against that. Because if I were to do that and you compromise your integrity, then what are you doing this for anyway? Sometimes when we are offered things, we think those are the only opportunities we're ever going to get. And that's why we feel pressured to say yes. And the hard thing is to really, really connect with your intuition and ask yourself, could this be better? Could there be something bigger than this? Could there be something bigger on the other side of this experience or this opportunity? And that was the feeling that I had when I was in the tank. And so turning down those offers was scary, but I knew that there was going to be more money for even like less ownership, less equity on the other side. And there was. After Shark Tank passed and after all of that and the airing, I was able to go and raise a seed round for the very first time. It was for a lot more money for less equity. And so it paid off to say no. And is it scary to give up money and say no to money that you really actually need? Yes. Did I want to throw up? Yes. But I also had this deep, deep feeling that there was going to be something even bigger than this moment on the other side of this experience. And there was. But you will never get there if you just kind of stop here. You just kind of accept whatever is handed to you or offered to you. So I think that was the biggest learning. I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to say no to something that seems good in the moment, but ultimately you know that there's something bigger for you on the other side. One of the things that I was not prepared for when I was in the tank was how quiet it was. What I had going for me is that before I launched Nopalera, I was a professional musician. So I had experience being on stage, being in front of a microphone, performing in front of people. And I'm very fortunate to have had those years of experience because it really helped me when I was in the tank. Even still, I was not prepared for just how quiet. I mean, it's a soundstage. So you walk in and it's dead quiet. And everyone has to really bring the energy, right? They have to over-emote because everyone knows it's going to get edited afterwards and there's going to be music on top. You could be in the tank for 40 minutes and all you're going to see on television is like 3 minutes. You're going to lose a lot. So much fun stuff happened in the tank that no one will ever know about, that only I and the sharks will remember. I certainly do. Like some really funny things happened. In fact, I even sang. That never made it into the episode. So anyways, so when I got the offers, you're on the spot. The pressure's on. Everyone's waiting. They're like, all right, you're doing math in your head. And all of those ancestors that I had brought into the tank with me, I started to hear them. And they said, Mija, no te desprecies, which means do not undervalue yourself. I didn't feel like I made that decision alone. I really feel like I was the messenger. I was the vessel standing there in that sound studio. And this was the message that was being delivered to me. And I also knew it in my gut. And when I walked down that ramp and into the tank, I brought them with me. And I don't know that you can see this from watching the video, but I feel like that presence was felt. Because even though the way that the video ended up being edited, trying to find the dramatic moments and find the question that I couldn't answer, the actual experience was positive. They were very kind to me and I felt respected. And even when I said no, they respected that. And that was because I truly felt we could see each other's humanity and that I was just not willing to compromise on the integrity and the core value of this brand that I was building and what it meant, not just for me, but what it meant for all of us, for the community. That is why Nopalera exists, because our value as people, as Latinos, as Mexican Americans here in this context of the United States has often been undervalued. And if we don't value ourselves, then people will not value us either. And so that's really what happened that day in the room. And I have no regrets.